in some sense it's difficult, to understand how we can do science without mathematics. Some people even think that without mathematics, science would not have objectivity. But when I said that for Aristotle it wasn't like that, it wasn't the essence. So one example of what is the essence of something is, for instance, to be a human. If you are 160 or 180 or 190, that's not essential for being a human. But to be able to think, to have a certain biological makeup, that's essential to be a human. There are a lot of properties that we have that are not essential, that we can vary. So the idea was that mathematics wasn't something that tells us before the revolution, the scientific revolution, that tells us something about these essential properties. It tells us more about the differences between 160 and 165. Okay. The other thing that changed, and this is important, is the experimental method. Because now, part of what, as we shall see when we talk about 20th century, philosophers of science, what the method was, you will see that part of the view of what science is, that it's experimental. So for instance, Popper, the philosopher of the 20th century, was especially influential in the first part of the 20th century. From the late 20s, mid-20s to the 60s or 70s, he said that science, a theory is scientific if it's falsifiable. You can put it to experiment and see whether it's true or false. That wasn't the view, of the Aristotelian philosophy. It's not necessarily that you put the experiment, and remember, also Zeno, as a rationalist, it's not necessarily if you see something, if you see someone walking, that doesn't mean that there is motion. It could be an illusion. The experimental method, in a sense, take more seriously and more the observation, the perception of things. Okay? So that's the reason why it's also very difficult for us to understand the being, even more than for the Greek. Because we see things move and change. What better than that? You can have. But that wasn't something that was, it wasn't always that you have to do an experiment in order to know. For instance, one of the things that I mentioned, that the text had authority. You read the text by Aristotle, that's maybe even better than experiment. In this sense. Because the person, he's very, very smart. He was very wise. And he thought, and he was, his kind of mind was, very strong. So you take this, more than if you do experiment and see one result. But what happened is that this change, that suddenly, making experiments and observing became much more important for the study of nature. And the importance of natural magic and alchemy and all these things, that they were instrumental to this change. Because they were, by their very character, they were kind of experimental. The people who did alchemy or did natural magic did a lot of experiments. They were they had a lab, not a lab, but they could do it in the kitchen, for instance, but still, it was like they did experiments, and they trust more. It was more important for the study of nature to do experiments. So, as I said, in the scholastic Aristotelian, there was, the most dominant philosophy in the Middle Ages and the beginning when we entered the scientific revolution. The experimental method was not prominent. It's not that there were no experiments. There were experiments. People always did experiments. we talked about reason versus perception, versus observation. So reason was very important. Reason, tradition. In a sense, to have evidence is like Aristotle said. This could be evidence. To do an anatomical model is not just looking at dissecting the body, it's also looking at the book of someone who is important in the past and seeing how this person, wrote the body. So, so experience, the idea of experience, was more in the first segment about how things are or how they behave, but experience did not refer to direct perception. In modern physics and modern science, and in 20th century, early 20th century philosophy, that had a lot of influence. Was on the way we think nowadays. Perception and observation is extremely important. So experience is to observe, to see something, to smell, to touch. And that's something that became more dominant during the scientific revolution. So the self-evident experience, that you think about something or it's self-evident for you, it's not enough. You have to do experiments. And all the people, they do experiments. The important natural philosophers do experiments. They don't only think and it's self-evident, it's clear. So observation, the scientific method by doing the experiments, by repeating. Think about, many people, and especially the philosophy that we will talk about, the positivist philosophy, or sometimes not called logical empiricists, they thought that science is a very powerful tool of knowledge because the experimental method is good. Because it's critical, it's repeatable. You don't have to trust that Mr. or Miss X, did experiment and publish something. You can do the same experiment in a different place and see whether it's correct. Repeatability of experiments in different conditions, and so the fact that it's open, and so on. If someone comes to tell you, general relativity is a good theory, but there is no experiment that shows that. There are examples. Actually, people did. There were very few experiments actually when Einstein introduced general relativity, and yet it was well received. But in general, without experiments and theory, even if it's a brilliant theory, people would look down at it. So, for instance, there is string theory that is very, very prominent among physicists, but it's very difficult to have any observation, any prediction, and to do experiments. So some people, including physicists, would say this is not really physics, this is mathematics. It's not the hardcore science. And that's because there is a certain conception of that science is good, that science is the best source of knowledge because it has such a good experimental method. That's very important. So, one of the factors that influenced, the experimental method was that the mathematical tradition in the development of mathematics, held this tradition. So, now the precise nature of how mathematics influenced, it's a matter of debate and among historians. But in the 16th and the 17th century, there were important developments of natural philosophical instruments like the telescope, microscope, and a number of others. And historians believe that there are studies that suggest that mathematical practitioners played an important role in the establishment of this experimental instrument. Yeah, it's very, one has to start these things, and we have no time, but that's one of the factors that historian mentioned. Another reason why the experimental method became more prominent in development in medicine. There were medical developments for instance, development in anatomy and physiology. So, one example is, for instance, Galen was an authority in medicine for almost 2,000 years. And it turns out that a lot of the things that Galen actually said about the human body was on the basis, for instance, of dissection of animals. So the Vesalius, who during this period, claimed that on the basis of actually dissecting, he found like 200 errors in Galen. Now Galen, he's the authority. It's like the authority for almost 2000 until maybe the late 18th and beginning of 19th century. Galen is 50. So the fact that people started, to do more of these things and to find out that authority of the past, like Galen, actually were mistaken, something like that, encourage people to experiment more and more. So you see, for instance, this is an example of work on the basis of data. You see a person with the book and actually looks at the book and give instruction on how to do things. So that's someone, let's alone the Galenic medicine. Someone who followed the Galenic. But someone like Vesalius, you see here, is someone who does actually the dissection, look at the body. Doesn't have the book to look at and to say, yeah, the book says that this is right or something like that. So this became more and more. There were a number of people experiment more and more. So in medicine, for instance, more dissection of the body, more building models, anatomical models and so on, and other things. So they discover also more things about the body. So Vesalius anatomy became very important for the foundation of medicine. So it's kind of started to replace the old paradigm. William Harvey, for instance, devised experiments to what is William Harvey known for? Yeah? Yeah, but more specific. What is credited? Blood circulation. For instance, there was a thought before that there were two systems of circulation, the veins and the arteries. As you can see, here is an experiment that he does. You see the veins. And with these experiments, he discovered a lot of. He saw that there were before, and it's not clear that he's the only one. Maybe, but he's credited. He got the credit in some sense, and he was important. Okay, so development in medicine, was also important. Alchemy was important for the experimental method. alchemy is by its very nature, I mean, is something with experiments. You have a lab or something, you do things, you try to convert things to gold, or you try to purify things, and so on. So that was, and it wasn't new. It was also before. But what happened in the scientific revolution, that the chemical experimentalism became more influential among natural philosophers, physicians, and other intellectuals. So because it became part of the elite in some sense. And through that, I mean, it influenced, I mean, basically how they did natural philosophy, what we say science. So that was another factor. So for instance, I mean, the kind of revolution we will talk next time about it, Paracelsus, I mean, changed the conception of the human body and health. Instead of thinking about galenic, I mean, instead of thinking about like certain balance in the fluids, he thought about intervention that is much more like modern medicine, that you intervene in some kind of, some materials, some chemical materials, in order to fix the body. So that's, but this is based on alchemy. He was an alchemist. Natural philosopher, but all alchemists. I mean, that's many times, as I said, go together. So this is an example. I mean, we were talking about one of the processes that one uses in alchemy distillation. So you can see that it's definitely, I mean, something experimental. You don't just sit, I mean, on the armchair. You do things. So you experiment.
What would you do exactly for conditions since it was all the kind of experiences with it?
You say that it's impossible, but this is anachronism. This is kind of a British point. I mean, they were doing, I mean, they were discovering things. I mean, so it's not maybe, they didn't manage, I mean, to convert to gold, but they managed, for instance, I mean, Paracelsus managed to change, I mean, the conception of how one does medicine.
What would be the experience themselves?
So, for instance, I mean, in the case of Paracelsus, I mean, he's looking, I mean, for intervention of chemical things in the body. I mean, in this case, I mean, they're trying to change, I mean, to purify metals, to transform them from one thing to another, and so on. Obviously, we don't think, I mean, that what they did is what they thought they were doing. But, I mean, we shouldn't think in such a way. We should try to understand. And they thought that it's possible, I mean, to transform things to gold. I mean, and it's difficult, but in the ideal, I mean, one can do that. But, I mean, alchemy wasn't only transforming to gold. There was a lot of other things. Okay. Another thing was natural magic and astrology. They were also important, I mean, so when we talk about natural magic, I mean, astrology and alchemy, they are basically, I mean, things that are coming together. So, I mean, the thing about, in a sense, alchemy, natural magic and astrology, is the idea that they are secret in nature. And if one knows these secrets, one can do wonders. So that's the motivation. Right? If you know really the secrets of nature, maybe you do have an ability to convert metals to gold. I mean, our perception is different. We have a certain understanding of the atom and so on. So we find it kind of impossible. I mean, but that wasn't, I mean, their view. So it's like the idea is that if you understand the things in nature, you can intervene and do things that are, that will be very beneficial for you and for other people. In changing things, in becoming obviously more reputable and so on. And that's always went, with also religious view, as we said, natural religion, that it's a duty to try to understand nature. So it's a duty to try to understand these secrets. And once you understand these secrets, then you can intervene. You can do wonderful things which are not miraculous, which are natural. Just knowing the secrets of nature. Okay. So we get to magic now. Talk a little bit more about magic. But again, it's not just magic, it's also astrology, alchemy, all these things together. Many times people believe alchemy also with astrology and magic and so on. So the point, and that's the issue of trying to fight against anachronism, is to understand that the way we understand magic is very different than the way they did understanding magic. And actually magic, not only that it was against science in a sense, it was one of the important factors that seemed relevant to the development of modern science. And since the 1950s, historians of science have changed their outlook and became much more interested in this natural magic, in astrology, in alchemy, and its role in actually developing science or natural philosophy. So, for instance, before talking about the religious alchemy and all these things of Newton was something that was left aside, was covered. It was a kind of embarrassment, in a sense. Now there is a big project in which everything that you wrote, and a lot of it, and the majority, about alchemy and religion and so on, I'm out there. To study and to try to understand Newton in much more round way, rather than in our terms. So the magical condition, is believed, to be part of the thing that helped the development of the experimental method and making science more empirical, the outlook of nature. So what is natural magic? There is no one definition. One of the papers you read, you see how different conceptions there are of that, but a different view about what exactly is natural magic. One example, Agrippa, when we use Agrippa, talked about natural magic. He was himself a natural magician, as control over hidden powers of earthly things, including alchemy and control over hidden powers of celestial things, things related to astrology. For instance, if you think that all the big things and the small things have the same structure, and they are somehow connected by doing astrology, by doing the things here, you can influence, or by all the big things to influence what you are here, and by doing magic, by changing something here, you can change big things, out there. So if you have this belief, and you're willing to experiment, that's what you do. So that's his view of natural magic. But there are other views. The important thing that natural magicians are different from miracles. So one example that we see, what we get to talk about now, was one important incident in the Hebrew Bible is when Moses wants to get the people of Israel out of Egypt. And Pharaoh is not very willing. So God sends Moses to do some miracles. And Moses does. Now Moses doesn't know, how to do miracles. He's just a messenger. God goes there and God says, do this. And God is basically the one who delivers. But it's not so easy because Pharaoh is kind of stubborn because he has these natural magicians. And they basically, every time, Moses does something, his magician also do. Until he gets to the last, the most severe things, and there, the magician cannot do. So, although they do the same, it's not the same thing. Like Moses is not a natural magician. Not a magician. Moses is just delivering with God, because God basically does the miracles, and Moses is only the ambassador. He's only coming and talking, following what God tells him, and eating something, and God does the things. So that's a big difference. The idea of natural magic is that making magic more secular in some sense, or natural more, in the sense that it's based on knowing the secrets of nature and being able to manipulate it. And the idea is that, and there is a big optimism in the Renaissance that human can do. Human can change. And that's part of also, and more than that it's a duty to learn. And to learn, the things that are required, for change.